How's it going, everyone? Pierre Poilievre, Canada's leader of the Conservative opposition, recently shared a chart comparing the growth of the United States economy with that of the Canadian economy. And what this chart shows us is that the American economy has recovered from COVID so much that it's as if COVID never even happened. That's what the growth of the American economy looks like, while the Canadian economy looks like it has never passed the level it was at before COVID. And we're going to go into the details and explain why. So I'm going to blow this chart up here so you can see it a bit better. And I'm going to explain what the chart means, and then we'll get into the details here. Okay, so we have real GDP per capita, which is a measure of the strength of an economy and the standard of living in a country. Okay, and this is comparing Canada to the United States, and it's looking at the start of 2016 all the way up to 2024. Okay, now this is normalized to the start of 2016. So the blue curve, which is the United States, and the red dotted curve, which is Canada, you see they both start at 100 at the start of 2016. This does not mean that they had the same real GDP per capita. It just means whatever they had at the start of 2016, we're calling that 100. Okay, and we're seeing how much each one changed, right? So if, say, the American curve goes to 104, it means it increased by 4%. And if the Canadian curve, say, goes to 102, it means it increased by 2%, right? So we're comparing the change based on whatever it was at the beginning of 2016. Now, to see this trend better, it's actually good to add some trend lines. Now, I added these trend lines, so I'm going to go to my version of the chart where the trend lines help us see what's going on. So if you look at the blue American curve, it's going up, 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 up. And then there's this sharp drop, which is during the start of COVID. And then it starts to recover. It keeps going up. And then it gets to the same growth rate that it was at before COVID by mid-2021 and just keeps on going up. So if you were to look at the pre-COVID growth of the U.S. Real GDP per capita, the U.S. measure of standard of living, it's like a straight line. And if you were to project how it would go before you even knew about COVID, you would keep projecting that straight line. And that's exactly what it does after it recovers from this COVID dip. So after COVID, the U.S. economy recovered to the point where it's growing as if COVID never even happened, right? So you can see that straight line before COVID and after COVID remains the same upward slope. Now, look at the Canadian curve. It starts off growing similar to the American one, and then it starts to slow down in its growth, and then it kind of becomes constant before COVID. Then you have the drop from COVID, then you have the recovery from COVID, but that recovery is stunted and never really gets beyond where it was before COVID. Before COVID, it was around 104. And how high it got after COVID was also around 104, like maybe a tiny bit higher, and then it dropped back down. Now that drop back down, we don't know, is that a trend that's going to keep going down, or is that just fluctuation and it looks like it's staying around the same place? But what you see here is that while the United States recovered from COVID so much that it's growing as if COVID never even happened, following the same pre-COVID upward trend, the Canadian growth plateaued before COVID, and after COVID it plummeted and started recovering and never increased beyond that pre-COVID level. So the Canadian economy certainly is doing much worse than that of the United States. If you compare it to 100 at the start of 2016, America is up to 116, whereas Canada is around 101. Okay, so 1% increase versus 16% increase, that is a big difference. Now, what's the reason? Well, that's something that the chart doesn't show. Pierre Poilievre posted this saying Canada's standard of living under the Liberal decade, implying that the Liberals being in power had to do with Canada's slow economic growth. Some people can agree with that. Some people can disagree with that. The chart doesn't give a clear answer what is causing Canada's slow economic growth, but the chart does tell us what is not causing it, and COVID is not causing it. Because if the problem was COVID, well, we wouldn't see the United States recover so much that it looks like as if COVID never even happened, right? So clearly something else is going on. People can debate what that something else is, but what the United States example shows us is that it certainly is possible to economically recover from COVID such that economic growth is as if COVID never even happened. Whatever is slowing down Canada's economic growth, maybe it happened after COVID or during, or maybe it even happened before, because we do see that slowdown and flattening of the red dotted curve before the COVID dip even happens. So I hope you enjoyed that and it clears things up and maybe creates some interesting discussions. If you like this kind of data analysis content, then subscribe to the channel. And until next time, enjoy.